Welcome to this explainer. Look, moving is incredibly stressful all on its own, so taking the guesswork out of exactly who is handling your things, it's absolutely essential. Today, we're going to sit down together and walk through exactly how you can confidently vet moving companies and protect your finances during a major life transition.
So how do you protect a lifetime of belongings? Let's dive right into this vital question. We really need to keep in mind that safeguarding your peace of mind is just as important as protecting the precious items you're moving. Every single year, people fall for the exact same handful of tricks. Hidden fees, missing deposits, delayed boxes. But honestly, vetting a mover takes far less time than most people think, and we're going to map the whole thing out together right now.
Section 1. The Reframe. Why Scammers Look for Seniors. It's absolutely crucial to understand why homeowners over 50 get targeted so often. And I want to point out right out of the gate, falling for these tricks is definitely not a result of carelessness. It's really about a specific set of circumstances that scammers actively look for. Think about it. A homeowner selling a family home after decades often has more valuable belongings and maybe a bit more flexibility around their timing. Plus, you might just have less day-to-day familiarity with how the current moving industry works. Scammers actually build their entire playbook to exploit that trust and any perceived time pressure. But here's the thing, this knowledge actually empowers you, because recognizing this pattern completely changes how you approach hiring help right from day one.
And that brings us to a real game changer. A single shift in timing is often the literal difference between a super smooth experience and a seriously costly one. By starting your vetting process about 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, you completely remove the time pressure that rogue movers rely on to rush your decisions. It gives you the breathing room to ask all your questions before signing anything, rather than scrambling after a problem pops up.
All right, Section 2, the Foundation, Registration and Estimates. Now that we've got a good handle on their tactics, let's look at your best lines of defense. When vetting a company, your very first step depends on where you're moving. For interstate moves, so anything crossing state lines, the company absolutely must be registered with the U.S. Department of Transportation and the FMCSA database. But if your move is entirely in-state, like staying within Illinois, for example, they're going to be regulated by state or local consumer protection offices. The crucial point here is that you have to confirm a company's registration before you even glance at their online reviews. Doing this one quick database check eliminates a massive chunk of the worst offenders before you spend a single dime. Okay, so once they pass that registration check, you've got to keep this absolute rule in your back pocket. A reputable mover will never give you a price over the phone without actually seeing your belongings first. Period. Always insist on written estimates following an in-person or a video walkthrough. And do yourself a favor, gather at least 3 of these estimates. That way, you can compare them fairly side by side instead of just jumping at the first or cheapest one you come across. Moving on to Section 3, the nuance. Coverage and red flags. Let's dig into the finer details that honestly trip a lot of people up, starting with coverage. Standard insurance is just basic federal coverage. It pays a really small amount per pound, completely regardless of the item's actual value. Full value protection, on the other hand, costs more up front, but it actually replaces or repairs damaged items at their real worth. Knowing exactly which option you're agreeing to and making sure it's clearly spelled out on your estimate prevents a massive headache if, say, a cherished family heirloom happens to break in transit. Alongside the coverage options, you absolutely have to know the red flags. I mean, never sign paperwork that has blank spaces for prices or dates. Just walk away from any company making weird demands for cash, large upfront deposits, or those asking for untraceable payments like wire transfers or apps. And you've got to be incredibly wary of quotes that come in far lower than every other estimate. Scammers love to use these lowball bids to trap you. Once your belongings are loaded onto their truck, suddenly they demand significantly more money. Let's look at Section 4, a cautionary tale, the Orland Park story. To show you how this actually plays out in the real world, I want to share a true story from an Orland Park homeowner. She received a written estimate for $2,400 for a local move. Now, at the time, this seemed perfectly reasonable to her, especially since the company's online reviews looked highly convincing and super positive. But on moving day, the whole situation just flipped. The moving crew suddenly demanded exactly double the estimate. Yep, $4,800 in cash before they would even think about unloading the truck, effectively holding her entire life's possessions hostage. So, how on earth does something like this happen? Well, she skipped checking the company's registration.
A quick DOT database search beforehand would have clearly shown they had no valid registration at all. This heartbreaking story shows us exactly why we have to treat online reviews as merely a starting point. They can easily be faked or manipulated, so you must always cross-reference them with official databases.
Section 5. Building your support team, specialized help and resources. Now, if you're sitting there feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, take a breath. There are some truly wonderful, community-focused resources out there to help you navigate this transition so you don't have to do it alone. One amazing resource is a senior move manager. This is a specialized professional who coordinates the actual logistics of downsizing. They often maintain relationships with vetted movers based on real client experiences. Bringing in a pro like this adds a super comforting layer of familiarity and peace of mind. Just remember, even with their excellent help, you should still take a second to verify any mover's registration yourself.
You also have some other really fantastic avenues for support. For instance, you could ask a realtor with SRS training for trusted referrals. You can read the free guide, Moving Your Parents, Advice from an Expert, or dig into the Homeowners 50+ free resource library for practical steps. And hey, if you ever do encounter issues on an interstate move, report it to the DOT immediately to create a paper trail. These resources provide trustworthy guidance based on real experiences, ensuring you always have a strong, supportive community right behind your decisions.
Which brings us to Section 6, the takeaway, your simple vetting checklist.
Let's distill all of this empowering information down into a really solid game plan. Step 1, confirm DOT or state registration before anything else. Step 2, get written estimates from at least 3 companies. Step 3, read the fine print to ensure there are absolutely 0 blank spaces. And Step 4, clarify damage policies and firmly refuse any upfront cash demands. By following these simple steps, which honestly only take a few extra minutes per company, you are going to filter out the overwhelming majority of rogue movers and completely protect your financial well-being.
And that brings us to one final empowering question. Are you ready to take control of your next move with confidence? Taking those extra few minutes early on protects your belongings and leaves you free to focus on the exciting journey ahead instead of worrying about who is handling your things. I highly invite you to explore the Homeowners 50+ page and their free resource library for more guidance. Thank you so much for joining me, and here's to a smooth, stress-free move.